Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into something you might just write off as, pond scum. But it turns out it's actually one of the planet's oldest and most powerful foods. We're talking about edible algae, like spirulina and chlorella, these ancient, tiny organisms that are now being rediscovered as absolute superfoods. So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to travel back in time to check out their ancient roots. Then, we'll get to know the algae all-stars of today. After that, we'll peek inside to see what makes them such nutritional powerhouses, explore the incredible health benefits scientists are finding, and finally, we'll follow their journey all the way from the pond to the products we see on our shelves. In a world that's always looking for the next big superfood, it's pretty easy to miss what's been right under our noses the whole time. But what if the answer to so many of our modern health challenges isn't some brand new discovery? What if it's actually one of the oldest forms of life on Earth, something that's been waiting around for billions of years? All right, let's start at the very beginning. Because while algae might feel like a new health trend, using it as food is anything but. This goes back centuries. The history here is just amazing. You have the Aztecs who would harvest spirulina from lakes and make these protein-packed cakes. And then, halfway around the world, in Africa, people in Chad have been doing the exact same thing for centuries, creating something they call daihe. There's even this wild theory that the manna from heaven described in the Bible could have actually been a type of algae that grew in the desert. How cool is that? Okay, but the word algae covers a ton of ground. To really get what makes them so special, we need to meet the key players. So let's get introduced to the four main types that are really making waves in health and science. What's really fascinating here is the biology. Look at spirulina. It's a prokaryote. That's a super simple, ancient type of cell with no nucleus. Think of it like a tiny, efficient studio apartment. But the others, they're eukaryotes, which have complex cells with different rooms for different jobs, kind of like our own cells. Now, this isn't just a random science fact. This difference in structure has a huge impact on how our bodies can actually use them. So what is it about these little organisms that makes them so incredibly powerful? Let's pop the hood and take a look at what they're made of. This chart just says it all, doesn't it? It really shows you why they're called superfoods. I mean, in just a single tablespoon, you get this massive nutritional punch. They're both loaded with complete protein, but then they have their specialties. Chlorella is just off the charts in iron and chlorophyll, amazing for building up your blood. Spirulina, on the other hand, is a fantastic source of B12, which is so important for energy. But here's where it gets really interesting, how we actually get to all that good stuff. Spirulina has a really thin cell wall, which means our bodies can absorb its nutrients super easily. It's ready to go. Chlorella, though, has this really tough, fibrous cell wall. So for us to get any of the benefits, that wall has to be physically broken during processing. That's why you'll often see broken cell wall chlorella on the label. Now you know why. And it's not just the vitamins and minerals. Each of these algae has its own unique superpower. Spirulina has phycocyanin, that's a powerful antioxidant. Chlorella has something called chlorella growth factor, or CGF, that helps your cells repair themselves. Brown algae gives us fucoidan, which is huge for immune support, and red algae is the source of astaxanthin, which is seriously considered one of the most powerful antioxidants on the entire planet. Okay, this all looks great on paper, but what does it actually mean for our health? Let's get into the research and see the real-world benefits that scientists are getting so excited about. The research into immune defense is just incredible. Studies are showing spirulina can help stop certain viruses from even making copies of themselves. And that fucoidan from brown algae, in lab studies, it's been shown to trigger something called apoptosis, which is basically the body's natural way of telling a damaged cell to self-destruct in cancer cells. It's an amazing look at how these things can help our body's own defense systems do their job better. And when we talk about heart and metabolic health, well, the promise here is huge. Multiple studies have found that spirulina helped lower that bad LDL cholesterol and triglycerides. Because they're so high in fiber, they can also slow down how quickly you absorb sugar, which is fantastic for keeping your blood sugar stable. And astaxanthin has been shown to have a really positive effect on blood pressure too. And the benefits just keep stacking up. Remember that tough cell wall in chlorella we talked about? Well, it acts like a natural detox agent, literally binding to heavy metals and helping to escort them out of your system. Spirulina acts as a prebiotic, feeding the good bacteria in your gut. And this is a big one for athletes. One study found spirulina seriously boosted endurance and helped protect against the stress of a really intense workout. So with all this going for them, it's really no surprise that algae supplements are everywhere. But how exactly do we get from a living thing in a pond to a safe little capsule? The modern process is actually a pretty cool piece of science. It all starts in a lab with pure strains, just to make sure you get exactly what you want and nothing else. Then they're grown in these huge, clean outdoor ponds. After harvesting, the algae is quickly spray-dried at a low temperature to lock in all those delicate nutrients. That fine powder is then pressed into tablets or put into capsules, and the best producers use methods that don't need any artificial binders or fillers. And this right here is why it matters so much where your algae comes from. You see, algae are like tiny little sponges. They just soak up whatever is in their environment. That means the water has to be pure, free of heavy metals, the air has to be clean, and of course, you need lots of sunlight. A clean environment is really the only way you can guarantee you're getting a clean, potent product in the end. So what's the big takeaway here? Well, algae are so much more than just pond scum. They're this powerful bridge between ancient nutritional wisdom and cutting-edge modern science. It's exactly why the United Nations called spirulina the most ideal food for tomorrow. And it really makes you wonder, what other incredible solutions from our planet's past are just waiting for us to rediscover them?